Now, one Fox News host is staging an intervention to stop the president from tweeting ridiculous things. Now, on Tuesday, Fox host Neil Cavuto decided to go after the president for his criticism of media outlets' coverage on his, ironically, his Twitter handle, Twitter habits. Now, to give you a little bit of context here before I get into the video, the Wall Street Journal, the liberal rag that it is, published a story on Donald Trump's Twitter habits and how they're actually hurting his legislative agenda. Now, they write, and by the way, like I said, Forbes is not some liberal rag, okay? They actually agree with Donald Trump's policy proposals. At least most of them, especially on tax cuts and all that economic stuff. They write, if this pattern continues, Mr. Trump may find himself running an administration with no one but his family and Breitbart staff. People of talent and integrity won't work for a boss who undermines them in public without thinking about all the consequences. And whatever happened to the buck stops here. Mark it all down as further evidence that the most effective opponent of the Trump presidency is Donald J. Trump. Ooh, scathing. Now again, what they were referring to, in case you weren't paying attention, Trump's tendency to say something, send his surrogates out to defend it, and then hours later on Twitter, sometimes not even hours later, maybe minutes later, go out and tweet something completely different. In this case, that of course undermines himself. Now, let's take an example of that. Muslim ban, right? Which even in its new incarnations is still essentially a Muslim ban. It's founded on the same purpose, to ban Muslims from the country. Okay? Now, that keeps getting blocked because Donald Trump keeps tweeting out, hey, let's go back and do the Muslim ban. Let's go back and do a tougher version of the ban that bans Muslims. Again, that's the original intention. That's why it kept getting blocked. Now, after the Wall Street Journal piece, Donald Trump was absolutely furious, and he decided to, of course, take to Twitter. He said, the fake MSM, let me bring up the tweet here. He said, the fake MSM is working so hard trying to get me to not use social media. They hate that I can get the honest and unfiltered message out. Well, unfiltered, sure. That's sort of the problem. There's no filter. You have no filter. So sometimes you will tweet, or most of the time, you will tweet out stupid things. Okay. Now, the media actually, by the way, they love it when Donald Trump tweets. MSM, mainstream media, hell, independent media, we're all over that shit. Okay? Because it's entertaining. And also, it tends to destroy your policy priorities. No, the people who don't want you to tweet are your aides, your fellow Republicans, your staff, and even your allies. Allies like Fox News.
Mr. President, it's not the fake news media that's your problem. It's you. It's not just your tweeting, it's your scapegoating. It's your refusal to see that sometimes you're the one who's feeding your own beast and acting beastly with your own guys. Those are your guys, Mr. President. They're on your team, Mr. President. And right about now, they seem shell-shocked and dejected, though looking at their deer in the headlight eyes, I bet they're too afraid to tell you. Now, they're not perfect, but they do have your back. As no less than the Wall Street Journal muses today, do you have theirs? Mr. President, they didn't tweet disparaging comments about a London mayor in the middle of a murder spree. You did. They didn't create that needless distraction. You did. They didn't get you off your very valid and very promising agenda. You did. They didn't turn on a travel ban that you signed. You did. You're right to say a lot of people are out to get you, Mr. President. They are. But as the Journal pointed out, the buck stops with you, Mr. President, and risks ruining the very promising economic agenda that has buoyed spirits and the markets because of you, Mr. President. That's good. Look at these critiques you're now hearing from usually friendly and supportive allies as sort of like an intervention. Because firing off these angry misses and tweets risks your political destruction. Quoting the Journal, if this pattern continues, Mr. Trump may find himself running an administration with no one but his family and the Breitbart staff. People of talent and integrity won't work for a boss who undermines them in public without thinking about the consequences. Consequences for them and you, Mr. President.
There it is. I mean, this is Fox News saying, hey, Donald, put down the Twitter. okay? It's not CBS, NBC, ABC, or CNN that's ruining your presidency. It's you. It's your fault. And again, the media loves your tweets because they're so damaging. But our president is a child, so he doesn't get it. He's going to continue undermining himself completely with his compulsive Twitter habit. Not to mention he's embarrassing the entire country, and especially the Republican Party. Now, there was actually another tweet, for example, right after the terror attacks in the United Kingdom. Now, while other leaders were out there, they were tweeting their sympathy about what happened. Hey, can we, Justin Trudeau tweeted out something like, hey, there's anything we can do. You can count on Canada. Hollande, of course, Macron, he tweeted out his sympathy to the UK. Here's what Donald Trump tweeted out. Did you notice we're not having a gun debate right now? That's because they use knives in a truck. Look, I don't want to hear any of those right-wingers, by the way, that like that complain about politicizing a tragedy to push an agenda. That's exactly what that is. That's exactly what that is. This is another great example of Donald Trump putting his foot in his mouth while using Twitter. His timeline, look, you look at it, it's a freaking gold mine of stupid. Why would we, as liberals, ever want him to stop tweeting? No, it's his friends, his allies, that are being the most embarrassed by this orange buffoon on a daily basis. And no one in the White House, sadly, has the balls to take away his Twitter privileges. And by the way, what a sad state of politics that we live in, that we actually have to, discuss taking away Donald Trump's Twitter access. I mean, seriously, he's the president of the United States. But he's so much of a baby that he can't seem to control himself on social media. Sad. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.